Hello, fellow human light beings. Welcome back to the Michael Denny YouTube channel, formerly the Thunder Wizard YouTube channel. So I am at the last minute, without any prior notification, early in the morning for most of us in the United States. I am doing a live stream because I just became aware of some extremely powerful astrological situation that is coming up at the end of this month that could very well mean the 3D, 5D Earth split. It is an incredibly rare 6-planet conjunction, along with a lunar and a solar eclipse that is happening this month. But when the solar eclipse happens, there's going to be so much stuff going on. Again, this has only happened twice in 2,000 years, and I believe it's very possible this could mean the end of 3D as we know it. So I will be taking a look at all of this, and I do have some notes, of course, which I will get into, but this is the Vedic astrological chart. By the way, this is Vedic astrology, so if you're a Western astrologer, I'm sorry, don't take it personally, but Western astrology is an inaccurate calculation of the sky. The rest of the science is great, comes from the same root that Vedic astrology comes from, but the difference is that 2,000 years ago, the Greeks who went to Bactria to learn this astrological knowledge, they took with them an inaccurate calculation of the sky, which we call the tropical zodiac. And it goes off by, I think, 1 degree every 72 years. So by now, any Western astrological chart is going to be off by 24 degrees, which means that planets are not only going to be in the wrong position, but they could be in the completely wrong sign and house. So please don't go looking at Western astrology to figure out what is happening. If you really want to understand this, you have to look at an accurate calculation. If you want to do Western astrology, go ahead, you can do that and use what is that? There's the tropical zodiac and the zodiac that, anyway, my brain isn't working because I'm thinking about so many different things. You can use that if you use the correct zodiac, even if you're using Western. But we are using Vedic. It is the most accurate astrology I know because I've looked at both. Anyway, enough of that. Let's get into this. So, you're taking a look here at what is going to be happening on October 30th, early in the morning, here on the East Coast, the 29th in other parts of the world. So what you have here is you have in Pisces, the number 12 is the sign of Pisces there. You have all of those planets. You have Venus, Saturn, Neptune, Sun, Moon, Mercury, and Rahu, and they are all in the sign of Pisces while there is a solar eclipse going on. Now, if you look at that, it is directly aspecting, if you go to the number 6 there, that's Virgo, it's directly opposite, that's 7 houses away. You have the south node of the moon, Ketu. So all of those planets are aspecting Ketu. On top of that, don't worry if it's confusing to you, but if you know anything about astrology, if you look over in the number 2 sign, which is where Jupiter is, and that is Taurus, Jupiter is also aspecting Ketu in its 5th aspect. So Mars, there in Gemini, is also aspecting Ketu from its 4th aspect. So that means literally all of the planets, excluding Uranus and Pluto, all of the planets are aspecting Ketu in Virgo. All right? This is extremely important. Virgo represents the third dimension in terms of everyday life. It represents dealing with duality. It represents the ego. It represents the intellect specifically. So the intellect is the tool that we humans use in order to function in the third dimension. Because without the intellect, not the mind, that the meditative mind is something else. The intellect is what tells you what's up, what's down, what's left, what's right, what's good, what's bad, what's dangerous, what's healthy. That's duality. So we need that in order to function. Without the intellect, we wouldn't be able to drive our cars, because we wouldn't be able to comprehend the idea of, driving on the right side or driving on the left side. What difference does it make? And people would crash into each other. So Virgo represents the highest understanding of this, and the Virgo, the sixth sign, represents the sixth house, which represents karma. It represents hard work. It represents enemies. It represents illness. It represents battling against forces that are trying to destroy you. It represents law. It represents lawyers. It represents healing of animals. And Virgo, the sign Virgo, represents healing, but it's not spiritual healing. It's healing by means of using the right exact mantra, using the right exact medicines, and putting just the right amount of herbs in to get the perfect, so it represents medicine, but again, it's coming from a place of duality. So it represents our third dimensional everyday life. All right, so we're going to get into that. And why all this is so important, stay tuned. We are going to talk about that. Okay, so let's take a look here. I guess I had some notes that I want to talk about first, because I've got my list of things here that I'm going to go through. We can talk about the first one there. This is an extremely rare conjunction in Pisces. It's only happened twice in 2,000 years. So it's never been like this, perhaps ever, but in terms of having all of these, this conjunction happening in Pisces, it's only happened twice in 2,000 years. All right, so let me pull up my notes here, because there's other things I wanted to talk about. All right, so I already talked to you about Virgo represents the dualism of 3D Earth consensus. Jupiter and Mars are aspecting Ketu, so I already talked about that. All 9 of the planets are aspecting Ketu. So let's talk about that. And let's see, I've got here literally every aspect of the human consciousness is seeking liberation from the 3D world. So let me explain that. Let's bring up the chart here. Okay, so the planets represent the chakras. So you have 7 chakras, there are more, but you have 7 main chakras. And each one of those chakras is aligned with one of the 7 major planets, including the nodes. No, is that including the nodes? So what that means is that you've got all of these aspects of human consciousness focused down here in this opposite in Virgo, which is where the number 6 is, and Ketu is sitting there. So we have to understand what Ketu is. So Ketu, Rahu and Ketu are the north and the south nodes of the moon. These are not actual planets, they're mathematical points. And they correspond with eclipses. So whenever there's a solar eclipse, either Rahu or Ketu is basically blocking our view of the sun. The sun represents the soul. In fact, the word Sawol, which is the Old English word for sun, is the exact same word for the soul. The sun represents the soul of our solar system. It represents our soul. In astrology, that's what the sun represents. So whenever there's an eclipse, either Rahu or Ketu is eclipsing it, getting in between us and our soul. So this is why a lot of people say that during solar eclipses you should stay indoors, don't look at the eclipse, you should pray, while other people will take the opposite view. You should be out and you should be underneath it and you should be doing all kinds of mantras and rituals and things like that, because some people look at it as power. So the people who look at eclipses as something dangerous, this is coming from the understanding that I'm a human being and I'm screwed up and I can't be in that energy because it's so powerful. It's going to pull me into my negativity. Whereas people who look at eclipses as something powerful, these are usually very like the Agoris. They're just completely, totally, they don't have any possessions. They're not interested in the physical world. And so eclipses represent going into that other realm, represents death, and they want to die to themselves. So for them, they want to be out in it, they want to experience it, and they look for power. So they will meditate and do mantras in order to gain power. So this is what is happening. What is going to be happening on the 30th of March this year. We have this extremely rare planetary conjunction in the sign of Pisces. That's rare in and of itself. But on top of that, we have the solar eclipse. There's going to be a lunar eclipse, and when that happens, I don't believe that Saturn will be in that conjunction yet, but it will still be very powerful earlier in the month. But I'm really focused on this solar eclipse, because this is going to mark a complete shift, complete and total shift in the third dimensional world. So I've been doing a little bit of research in this, listening to other Vedic astrologers, and most of them are saying this, but I also got some information last night. Some of my light being friends, ones that I've never met before, came and showed up and were telling me, I'm not going to get into the specifics because it's pretty intense, but this is going to signify the split from 3D to 5D. Now, what that means, I'm not going to try and say. Does that mean that we're literally going to see people disappear from the earth? I'm not going to go that far, but if it happens, I go, okay, well, at least we know how it happened. But at the very least, what we are going to see is a complete and total upending of the world. Now, this conjunction is already beginning to have its effect on us. So when you have a conjunction this strong, and it's this rare and this powerful, you start to feel the effects of it before the conjunction actually hits, which is what's happening right now. That happened as soon as Trump got into office. Everything started changing. I'm not going to get into it, and I'm sorry if politically you don't like what's happening. I understand everybody's got their own opinions, but I'm telling you, I've never seen anything like this. And what I'm seeing is the beginnings of the complete destruction of the bureaucratic, what people call the deep state. The bureaucracy in government is being destroyed, and the bureaucracy in the government of the United States represents the head of the bureaucracy, the deep state in the rest of the world. What happens in the United States will then start happening all around the world. That means that this is why, if you're watching what's happening in politics, this is why Europe is so upset with the United States about getting out of this war in Ukraine. If you know anything about the Ukrainian war, it was absolutely provoked by the United States. There were, you're not going to hear it in mainstream media, but there were at least 2 opportunities where Russia and Ukraine were at the table ready to prevent war. And the United States came in and nixed it. They took Zelensky aside, who they propped up. He's not the democratically elected leader of Ukraine. He was propped up and put there. They took him aside and said, go to war, go into NATO, which will provoke Russia to go to war. And we will back you. We will defeat Russia and we will make you very powerful. Zelensky is in this for the money and the power. Make no mistake, he is not an innocent victim of the aggression of Russia. Russia was simply trying to protect their boundaries, and they have been talking about this for 20 years. They have been saying that they need this for their own sovereignty, and the United States and the bureaucracy, which are the propped up, unelected government bureaucrats who are put there by BlackRock and the banks. And if you watch what's happening, they even have said on places like CNN and NBC and ABC, MSNBC, that they've been telling people on there that going to war in Ukraine is good because the $350 billion that we've given to Ukraine actually goes to the United States, because all of that money is being taken from taxpayers and given to the weapons manufacturers in the United States. This war has been about money. It's been about and chopping up Ukraine and giving it to the big banks and the big corporations. And Zelensky is the puppet they put there. And they have, he's got a lot of money. He's probably got billions of dollars that he's squirreled away. So this is all coming out. And so to have the United States government completely flip and do what they've done, which has been publicly saying that Russia was provoked into this war, is a sign that everything is flipping. So we have already seen this begun to happen. There's going to be there's going to be investigations into the Epstein files. There's going to be investigations into the Kennedy assassinations. There's going to be investigations into actual UFO disclosure. This is all happening on the highest levels of government in the United States. There's going to be investigations in the Pentagon. Where did those trillions of dollars go? This is happening transparently in front of the world. So I don't know if you realize how significant this is. There has never been anything more significant and more powerful than this. And this is just the lead up to this conjunction. The conjunction itself is powerful enough. But now we're going to have the solar eclipse, which is going to be like a nuclear bomb exploding the whole thing. All right? So there's the background of that. Let me get into some of the specifics here. Okay. All right, so extremely rare conjunction in Pisces, only twice in 2,000 years. Sun, Moon, Rahu, Saturn, Neptune, retrograde Venus and Mercury, plus a couple more planets actually. Rahu has the least amount of degrees. He's ruling the conjunction. So, let me make sure that I'm accurate on this. I'm going to see what's happening right now. Let me see if I'm accurate about that. So, right here and now. So, yes. Rahu is going to have the least amount of degrees until Saturn enters the conjunction at the last minute. So just before the eclipse, Saturn is going to jump into Pisces, and then Saturn will have the lowest number of degrees, and that is important. So what does it mean that Rahu has the lowest number of degrees. So degrees means how high in the sky the planet is. And when you have a conjunction, when you have two planets that are close to each other, you want to see which planet has the lowest number of degrees, because that is the planet. So if there's two planets here, the one that has the lowest number of degrees is the one that's actually having all the strength. This one is on top of it. This one is, the lower one is the one that has all the power. So that is very important. If you've got a conjunction in your chart, you should find out which planet has the lowest number of degrees, because that is the planet that is going to have the most influence on it. And it means that that planet, the one underneath, has control over the one that's sitting on top of it. And so Rahu is going to have the lowest number of degrees until Saturn comes in at the very last minute. So what does that mean? So Rahu and Ketu are the north and the south nodes of the moon, and they represent karmic portals. They are karmic energy portals. Most people do not understand Rahu and Ketu. So if you listen to the average Vedic astrologer, they're going to tell you that Rahu and Ketu are evil. They're going to tell you that Rahu represents confusion and lying and robbery and theft and ego, and they're going to say all these negative things about Rahu. But that's coming from a third dimensional perspective. That is somebody who is attached to the third dimension. If you are a very spiritual person and you don't have attachments to the third dimension, Rahu is an extremely, extremely spiritual planet. So Rahu is the portal through which your soul came into third dimensional manifestation. Your soul, before it incarnated, said, I really want to go to Earth and I want to experience whatever it is your soul wanted to experience in the third dimension. It said, I can't learn about this thing as long as I'm, this infinite being in space. I have to go into that very dense, dualistic illusion of reality. I have to go into that to be able to really experience what I want to learn. And so Rahu is the portal through which the soul comes through and manifests. Without Rahu, you couldn't be born. It would be impossible. So Rahu is far, far, far more important than most people realize. And again, he's only dangerous if you are wrapped up in your karma. Because what Rahu wants to do, because Rahu says, okay, I'm going to let you come into this reality, but I am going to hold you accountable to your consciousness and your karma, your unresolved emotional, psychological issues from previous lives, because that's all that karma is. Karma is not what you've been told. You've been told that you live in this karma, reincarnation trap, prison. It's so hard to listen to that. It's just the deepest level of fear and childish, selfishness. It's just very hard for me to listen to. You have all chosen to come here, myself included. Bear in mind, I am currently, in this life, I am living the consequences of my karmic attachments from lives going back 13,000 years. So I'm well aware of what karma really is. I'm living it, experiencing it every day, twice a week when we do these live guided meditations. I am burning through major karma in my life. So karma is just the reaction to your emotional attachment to the illusion. That's all it is. If you don't want to have any negative karma, it's really simple. Detach from your emotional attachments to the third dimension. Get over your resentment, get over your fear, get over your anger, get over your feelings of entitlement, get over just get over that stuff. Do the work to work through that. And you won't have any karma. Stop complaining. That's another one. Stop complaining. There's something wrong in your life. Instead of complaining about it, figure out what you can do to fix it. That's overcoming karma. So Rahu, when you're born, Rahu says, I'm going to hold you accountable to your attachments. And every time that you get attached and you start to get emotionally attached to something superficial, you get attached to money. Look what's happening to all of the celebrities. The cult of celebrity is crumbling. They are completely coming apart. They just can't get away with just being, the royalty of the world. They can't. They're being held accountable to everything they say that they and do. And look at how when you've got people like super self-righteous, like Robert De Niro, who's super self-righteous in his opinions about Trump and everything else, and he thinks he can just go. He thinks he's so full of himself. Before the election, he thinks he can call a press event, and that he is going to give his opinion about why Trump is a horrible president. And then all of a sudden there's this huge backlash because at least half of the population are Trump followers. And he doesn't realize that he is a celebrity because all of these little peons actually pay money to go see his videos and his movies. And that he owes them his status. And so he loses at least half of his fan base. And then all of the movie studios start going, you know what, we're not going to give you any more movie deals. Remember that $30 million you were going to get for that movie? You're not getting that. You can't alienate the people who are paying us, and we're the ones that pay you. And he's so into himself because he's been a celebrity his whole adult life. And he's been untouchable. That he honestly thinks that he has this, and if you look at all the rest of the celebrities as well, I could name them all, but they're literally rubbing elbows with the deep state. They're rubbing elbows with presidents, and they think that they are part of the ruling class, and they don't understand that they're just figureheads, and without the actual population paying the money to see their movies, the movie studios don't want them, and if the movie studios don't want them, then the politicians don't want to be anywhere near them either. So all of this is coming apart. All of the cult of celebrity is coming apart, which is representative of the ruling class. The consensus of the ruling class is completely falling apart. All right, so how did I get off on that tangent? So Rahu has the least amount of degrees. All right, so when you become incarnated, Rahu says, I'm going to hold you to your attachments from past life and in present life. So if you have worked through a lot of karma, then what Rahu does is Rahu says, come here, I'm going to open up and show you what's underneath this illusion. So Rahu can give you all kinds of power and fame and success, but you have to be aware that whatever success comes to you, you have to realize that it's not real, it's just an illusion, and you can't get attached to it. So Rahu is going to test you to see how well your soul is able to connect to itself. All right, so we all need Rahu in order to be incarnated. So what Rahu is doing right now, wherever Rahu sits, he expands wherever he is. So if we look at where Rahu is going to, where he is right now actually, where he's going to be is he is going to be in Pisces. Actually, he's in Pisces right now. And so Pisces is the 12th sign, which means the last, it's representative of the last house. the last phase. Aries is the first house. When you're first born, that's what Aries represents, the power of the ego showing up in the world. Then it goes through all of the signs, and by the time it gets to Pisces, the soul is ready to leave this world and go back to the spirit realm. So Pisces represents leaving this world. It represents Ketu. It represents the portal that takes us back to where we came from, back to the spirit realm. It represents the priest who is in deep meditation in his meditation chamber. He's gone completely within. He's no longer attached to the physical world. It represents things that are secret, things that are hidden, things that only the spiritual masters truly understand. These are some of the things that Pisces represents. So when Rahu comes into Pisces, he becomes a monk. He becomes the most committed person to achieving self-awareness through a meditative path. So if he was in another house, he would expand the properties of that house or that planet. So the fact that Rahu is on the bottom of this, again, only Saturn, you can see there, Saturn has 0 degrees, which means Saturn has just entered in the conjunction. But until that happens on the 30th, Rahu is going to have all the power. So that means Rahu is going to create a spiritual portal. So that means all of the other planets, as they come in, because right now not all of the planets are there in Pisces. They're slowly showing up before the end of the month. So all of the other planets in Pisces, let's find out what's happening right now as we look at this. Neptune and Venus right now are with Rahu. And so that means Rahu is, Neptune I think represents, I'm not totally an expert on Neptune because I'm a Vedic astrologer, and that's usually Western astrologers are into that. But Neptune represents illusion and deception, those kinds of things. So Rahu is opening up a portal to show that, to reveal that, because in the sign of Pisces, he is a dedicated monk to the truth of the soul, and he expands. He's a portal that expands wherever he is. So that means Neptune, deception, illusion. That is now being, there's this spiritual focus, and he's revealing that. That's why we're seeing, that's why there's hints of all the, the Epstein list is coming out, who killed JFK and RFK and MLK, and what is going to be revealed, all the stuff that's already being revealed, by Doge. The reason why they hate Doge is because they are revealing all of the lies and the corruption that has been fueling the deep state for forever. It's now being shown. Oh my God, this U.S. aid supposed to go around and help everybody. Oh, it's just a front for the CIA, and we're taking tax dollars from the American people, and we're funneling them and using them for kickbacks and for all kinds of other ways to drug running and smuggling, and we're propping up dictators and giving money to Al-Qaeda, all that kind of crazy stuff. You're finding out that all of this money that's supposed to be going to help other countries is actually going to destroy other countries and to put money in the pockets of the elite. That is Rahu. Rahu's going, let's take a look at that. With Neptune, Rahu and Neptune are opening that up and say, let's take a look at the deception that's going on. So Rahu is, when this eclipse happens, Rahu's going to have all the power because the eclipse is Rahu. He is going to be revealing all of the issues associated with each of the planets. So with the moon is the mind. Rahu is going to reveal the depth of the mind. So this will be a time when meditation will have tremendous power. Rahu's going to open up to the sun, which is the soul. So the soul there will be a tremendous focus on the soul. Rahu is going to open up Mercury retrograde. Mercury is the intellect. So Rahu is going to reveal things that have been invented in the past that we're not aware of. Like the fact that the United States military, the unacknowledged military, already has created anti-grav spaceships, which they're using for all kinds of nasty things. Rahu's going to reveal retrograde Venus, which is things having to do with physical pleasures, money, wealth. Venus retrograde means, the karma of that. So Rahu is he's taking on his role as I am the portal through which all of you get to come into the third dimension. Now, all of these planets are now focused on Ketu. Let's see, I'm going to make sure I don't get ahead of myself here. So Rahu has the least amount of degrees. He's ruling the conjunction. So Saturn enters Pisces and takes rulership of the conjunction right at the time of the eclipse. So what does that mean? So, technically speaking, Rahu is still in control because he is controlling the eclipse. You can't have an eclipse of the sun without either Rahu or Ketu. In this case, it's Rahu. So what does that mean when Saturn jumps in right at the last minute when the eclipse happens? So what is Saturn? Saturn is karma. Now again, Saturn gets a bad reputation. People think Saturn is an evil planet. Saturn is only a problem if you are attached. If you are attached to the third dimension, if you're attached to the illusion, and you fight to hold on to those things, you're into money, reputation. Again, this is why all of the celebrities, it's coming out how incredibly narcissistic they are, and that they're just completely out of touch and lost when it comes to what the actual real average person feels. So Saturn is going to bring to task all of those who are attached. But when you are not attached and you're following spiritual paths, Saturn is your best friend, because Saturn is going to pay you, because karma is just the balancing of your actions. If you take an action towards something that attaches you to this illusion, you are going to suffer, either in this life or the next. That is karma. That's it. If you take actions towards your liberation, or more importantly, towards the liberation of other people, Saturn then starts putting, spiritual money into your bank account. So when Saturn comes to pay up, Saturn says, okay, it's now you're going to get what you deserve. If you've been living your life for your spiritual truth and to help others, then Saturn says, here's a bunch of good stuff. Here's a bunch of rewards. You're going to get huge amounts of rewards. So Saturn is the judge. And so when you're in court, the judge is going to punish one person and going to reward another, right? So somebody gets sued in court, there's a judge sitting there, and somebody, if they lose, they are going to have to pay out $1 million to the winner, the other person. So depending on who you are, the judge is your best friend, because all of a sudden all of that money now goes to pay all of the damages and gets you out of debt or whatever it is. And if you're the person that's been doing things out of your selfishness, it's going to cost you. This is what's going to happen. because Saturn comes into this conjunction at this time, and Rahu is now this portal. He's now this portal of manifestation into the third dimension. And he's only focused on spirituality because he's in Pisces. When Saturn comes in, Saturn is going to now be empowered to make a final judgment. So there's no more time left. I've been saying this for a while. There's no more time left. No more time to screw around. We're going to talk about it later, but I have every intention. I've already started it. I know which mantra I'm going to be doing in order to get myself through this this ascension process. So for those of you, if you want to know what mantra is in your chart, you can go up here to astrology.thunderwizard.com. And one of the things I do is I focus on people's charts and I give them the mantra that their soul needs in this life. So if you want that, go here. I'm going to be doing one. I'm doing it now. I'm basically doing it all the time. Stay till the end of this video and I'll give you a mantra. If you don't have one, I will give one that will work for everybody. So we'll get on. We'll do that. So Saturn is going to come in, and it's Judgment Day. It's it. It's over. So imagine all of the deep state, what they've done. They've done far worse than you know, I guarantee it. All of that is going to be revealed, and they are going to suffer the consequences of that. And it means that people who live their life based on money, based on reputation, based on power, all of that is going to get taken away. It's going to become a completely different world. The people who have been living for spirituality, they are going to be put in, it's going to be a completely different setup. So it's not just people who have profited from, being focused on money and reputation. Fearful people. If you are a perpetual victim, if you're, for instance, if you're somebody that's really into some of the nonsense that's going on in YouTube, maybe not everybody, but certainly some people who are into the idea of being the chosen one. If you watch any of those videos about being the chosen one, what they're really talking about is they're victims. And they talk about how victimized they are and that God is finally going to come and, And so these are people who don't understand that they are absolutely privileged to be human. And they don't understand that they are in control of their reality and they can choose to have the life that they want if they're willing to look at themselves and do the spiritual work. These are people that want everything to come to them. These are narcissists. So it's not just people who have all the money and are controlling people, it's also the victims, people who have victim mentality, people who are full of self-pity, rage, alcoholism and drug addicts, and people who are wrapped up in that kind of nonsense. Those people are going to experience the payback for all of that. Because it's the victims, the people who live in their victimhood, that actually prop up the evil, dark forces that control the world. So it's time now to drop all of it. This is your last warning. This is your last chance. I can't tell you what is going to happen after the 30th. I'm going to be prepared for the most extreme thing. I'm going to try and prepare myself. I'm as human as anybody else. So who knows? Who knows what I have to deal with? But I'm going to be focused purely on my spiritual connection. I'm going to spend the next month just focused on my connection and what I can do to help others, and I'm not going to worry about anything on a physical level. I'm not going to worry about any of that stuff. After the 30th, if we're still here, I'll worry about that. But for now, I'm only going to be focused on my spiritual connection and my empowerment. So here's another thing that people can do. The way to use this this conjunction and to use this solar eclipse is to not think about what you want in the third dimension. So normally during an eclipse, you can say, okay, what is it that you want? You want a new job, you want more money, you want health. Those are all third dimensional things. But that's, when this is what Ganesha is about. Ganesha, people worship Ganesha to get good things in the physical, but Ganesha says you got to focus on your spirit. If you focus on your spirit, I will reward you with health and money and a success. That's why Ganesha is associated with success. Ironically, the success comes because you are actually worshiping the god Ketu. We'll get into that, which has to do with spiritual advancement. So since all of these planets, including Jupiter and Mars, are focused on the planet of spiritual advancement, which is Ketu, all of them are looking directly at Ketu. It means that all of those parts of yourself want spiritual liberation. If you fight against that, you're going to get knocked down. So this is when we're going to see the split. How that's going to manifest, I don't know. Maybe we will shift to a higher dimension. Maybe it'll just mean the beginning of the split where all of a sudden society will start to split and there will be very clear distinction between the two. I don't know. But I know that will be the demarcation point. The demarcation point when everything is going to shift. And so during this time, between now and the end of the month, I recommend that you just you do rituals, you do meditations, do energy practices, do mantras, and focus on what you would want in the fifth dimension. So let's be clear what the fifth dimension is. In the fifth dimension, there is no money. Everybody has access to all resources. So wanting to do rituals to get rich, a complete waste of your time. In the fifth dimension, there is no power, meaning there aren't people who have power over others. There will be people who will be placed in positions of responsibility over others, which is different. So for instance, in the fifth dimension, if there's a leader, a chief, a king, whatever, that person is spiritually responsible for all of the people in his or her jurisdiction, which means that they won't get any power over anybody. They won't be able to tell anybody what to do. They won't be able to have people underneath them work for them. They will have to spend all of their time connecting spiritually so that they can be a portal of spiritual blessing for everybody. And they might not even nobody might even know who they are. So power out the window. So asking for money, asking for power, forget about it. Anything that has to do with the third dimension. Bear in mind, wanting to get things in the third dimension comes from the dualist assumption that you need to survive in this unpleasant, violent, unsafe world. That is a reality. That's because money is protection. Let's be clear about that. Money is protection. Money protects you from the banks, from the government, from taxes, from poverty, from starvation, from money gives you the ability to move and do things, because if you want to travel, if you want to go somewhere, if you want to buy a house, you want to live someplace nice, you need money. It's protection. It physically protects you. That's all it does. It's just a symbol that we now use in the third dimensional consensus to give people status. That's all it is. So in the fifth dimension, where there is no such thing and everybody is equal and everybody is a soul and everybody is God and everybody has access to anything that they want, everything that they want, number one, that will, nobody will hoard things. There won't be billionaires with 10 houses and 20 yachts and 6, planes. They won't have to hoard things, because whatever it is you want, you need, you will have it. So people will basically have nothing, but as soon as they need to travel somewhere, all of a sudden, they'll have a spaceship. They can fly around the world. They have kids, they need a bigger house. Everybody will come together, the earth will come together. They might be able to just simply think of a house big enough for all of their kids. People will be focused on their spiritual empowerment. I've been there energetically. I've been to the fifth dimension, and I can tell you, it is absolute pure bliss. And when you're in that state of bliss, you don't need or want anything. So there won't be any desire for things, because you'll have complete fulfillment. So focus on that world. Focus on a world where you will have everything you could possibly want. You have all of the love that you could possibly want. You have all of your health. You live where you want to live. You don't have to go to work. You can just simply exist and do things that give you joy and pleasure. Live in that world. Focus on that world between now and the 30th of March. If you do that, when this eclipse comes, the power will be completely focused on giving you that. If, however, you are focused on your superficial, I need more money, I need more success, I need, whatever it is, whatever unnecessary, selfish desires. You want revenge on other people, you're full of anger, you're full of feeling like a victim, resentment, all that is gonna be what you get. So you're gonna get whatever you focus on. You think you're focusing on a better life. I want more money, I want more success, I want more power, I want a better job, I want all of that stuff. You think you're focusing on success, but what you're really focusing on is what you don't have, and you're focusing on your fear, and you're wanting to give yourself armor to protect yourself from the ravages of the third dimension. So what's going to end up happening if you focus on that is you will end up imprisoned, alone, lonely, miserable. So focus on your soul only. Now, how do I know that that's going to happen? Again, we've got all of those planets, Venus, Saturn, Neptune, Sun, Moon, Mercury, Rahu, as well as Jupiter and Mars. They are all focused on Ketu. Ketu, I told you, Rahu is the portal through which the soul comes into third dimensional manifestation. And Rahu is negative because if you get wrapped up in the illusion, Rahu will make you miserable. So the one thing that Rahu represents in the chart is, in your birth chart, wherever Rahu sits, that is something that you obsess over, that no matter how much you get, you will never be satisfied. And so it's important, for instance, Rahu in my chart is in the 11th house in Gemini, which represents communicating to the masses. So that's why I'm constantly complaining about why I don't have more people on my channel, because that's my obsession. My Rahu gives me this obsession, which is the reason I came into this world, was to give this message to the world. And now I want the whole world to listen, and I only have 100 or 200 people watch whatever each of my videos. That is my obsession, my Rahu. Wherever yours is, if it's in the 7th house, you'll be obsessed with relationships. If it's in the 1st house, you'll be obsessed with yourself. If it's in the 3rd house, you'll be obsessed with communication or physical violence, because the 3rd house is the right hand, that knockout punch. If Rahu's in the 10th house, you'll be obsessed with your career. See, so you have to focus on it, you have to go after it, but you have to be able to go, okay, I'm just going to do what I can today, and whatever I get is what I get. Ketu, on the other hand, Ketu is the exact opposite. Ketu is the portal to spiritual realms. It's death. It's death to the third dimension. It's the exiting from the third dimension. So if you're attached to the third dimension, Ketu will bring misery. Now, I've known people who have had Ketu associated with things representing relationships and love. In fact, I remember one person, I won't get into the specifics because I don't want you to do self-examination and make some wrong things, but this one person had Ketu directly associated with love relationships. And what happened is this person really wanted to have love relationships in their life. But as soon as they would get into a relationship, almost immediately they would lose all interest in it. And then it would just be, the relationship would just make them miserable. They felt even more alone. So Ketu was destroying their third dimensional attachment to relationships. In my chart, Ketu is in the 5th house, which has to do, among other things, with children. I've never wanted children. I don't have them, and I'm now I'm old enough that I don't have to worry about it. But I never wanted kids, and the thought of it, just why would somebody want that? I can't understand that, because Ketu has completely destroyed that ability within me. So wherever Ketu sits, he's going to take that away. He's going to make you completely uninterested in whatever physical attachment that represents. So here Ketu is in Virgo, which I've said represents everyday third dimensional dualist, perfecting the third dimensional reality. That's what Virgo really is all about. Ketu says, no, we're not doing that. And all of these planets, which represent different chakras in the body, which represent different parts of your personality, all of the human personality is focusing on being released from this third dimension. So for those people who have, like somebody who spent their whole life in meditation, monks who have spent their whole life in meditation, people who have focused their whole life on spiritual empowerment, they are going to get that. This is going to be Ketu giving that to all aspects of the human personality. On the whole, if we're looking at humanity on the whole, it means all aspects of humanity are going to be shifted up. There will be complete liberation from this third dimensional consensus, which means those that are still attached to it, which is why we're seeing it in the celebrities. And now we're starting to see it with politicians. Celebrities and politicians who have been part of the consensus, who have been part of the control and lying and deception of the average person. Politicians who have made their money, who have made all kinds of wealth. All of the corporation heads, the billionaires, watch what's going to happen to, the guy who owns this channel. Watch what's going to happen to George Soros. What's his name? Elon Musk, he's actually fighting for the average person. So I don't know. We'll see what happens to him and his money. But he's on the right side of this. But those that all the bankers, all of the BlackRock and all those people, there's going to be a huge payback, because Ketu says that's all meaningless. And so the human race as a whole is saying we want to be liberated from this. So those that are still trying to do the old enslavement of the human race, they're going to be on the wrong end of this. Now, does that mean that on, the next day, does that mean on April 1st that everything's going to shift to 5D? Probably not. But you're going to see from that point on, everything is going to start shifting in the complete other direction. All right, what else? All right, so Saturn enters Pisces, takes rulership. Jupiter rules Pisces, house of spiritual awakening endings. This is karmic end of current world structure. Possible tectonic events, natural disasters. Okay, so I don't know. I'm not giving you a psychic prediction here. But I do have some feelings. Anyway, I have some perhaps potential intuition telling me that there might be some world disasters, some physical, natural disasters that could happen. I can tell you that there is something going on, and you can go look this up. Go do some research, and you'll see that there's a lot of tectonic activity happening right now. I mean, there's an island coming out of the ocean in Santorini there, right off the coast of Greece and Italy there. And there's been other things happening tectonically. So the physical Earth is getting ready for something. So keep your eyes out. There might be some actual volcanic disturbances, or there might be things like tsunamis, because everything is in Pisces, which is a water sign. So there might be something having to do with floods. I'm not wishing that on anybody. I personally, this isn't something I personally enjoy. I don't want that, but that is a possibility. So this would be the Earth herself. She's now finally going to shift. She's making some adjustments in herself. So keep your eyes open for that. And if you meditate and you stay focused, you'll be okay. So you don't have to worry about it. Oops, where am I? All forms of government control, money, etc. will fail. So we need to talk again about, we're looking at Ketu. Ketu represents the truth. And the truth is that the only thing that is real is the spirit. Everything else in this third dimension is an illusion, and it's temporary. And the correct way of living in this third dimension is to treat it as though it's a video game. So you don't spend all of your, if you're playing a video game, a role-playing game, that it doesn't mean anything. You may have some attachment to having fun and making it through the game, but if your guy dies, you'll be upset for 30 seconds, and then you'll get on with your life and you'll go do whatever it is you do in your life, and you'll be okay. So we need to understand that this third dimension is that way. So things having to do with, the third dimension reality is an illusion. But we have illusions within the illusion. Money is one of them. Money doesn't exist. If you go out into, find a place where there are still, I think there's a couple places in the world left where there are people, that still live, tribally and don't have connections to any of, modern society. Go there with a credit card or with a handful of cash and say, hi, I'd like to pay you to go hunt for me. They're going to go, I don't know what to do with this. Can I burn this? I can use this to start my fire. But what is this plastic thing? I don't know what that is. I can't do anything with that. It means nothing. Money only has value if we agree that it has value. So that's what banks are. Banks are these evil temples to the worship of nothing. They are temples to the worship of enslavement. Because the idea of enslaving somebody is that the people who, maybe you've heard this before, it's very pertinent. So one of the ways that people learn how to control elephants, elephants are huge. So you got a guy sitting on an elephant and he's telling the elephant where to go, and the elephant obeys him, and the elephant stays where he puts it. Well, when they're little babies, they wrap a rope around their whatever they call the paw, the foot, or whatever they have, on the elephant's foot, and then they take just a wooden stake and they put it into the ground. And so whenever the little baby tries to walk away, he can't, because he's really tiny and he can't go against the rope. And so there's other things that they do I won't get into, but it's very cruel. But the bottom line is that his elephant mind says that the moment that you put a rope around his foot, he won't be able to move. So he doesn't even try. And they do the same thing. They just simply put a rope around his foot, and then they take a wooden stake and they hammer it into the ground. And that elephant could just choose to move, and nothing would stop him. But because he believes that he can't move, he doesn't move. He chooses to accept that he is enslaved. And that's all that happens with money. You don't have enough money? How many of you listening to me are afraid of money? You don't have enough of it. How many of you think that you won't be able to eat? You won't have a place to live because you don't have money, because the banks won't give you money. You are that elephant, and you believe that this thing that doesn't exist actually has the power to completely control your life. So that's going away. Ketu says that doesn't exist. And so the banks are going to completely lose all of their power. The banks lose their power, the elites lose their power. It means that those who have control over you are going to lose all of their power. Again, is this going to happen overnight? I hope so. Maybe it'll take years or decades. I don't know. But this is the turning point when that happens. All forms of government control, money, etc. will fall. Only those focused on spirituality will survive this shift. I recommend daily meditation and ritual until after the eclipse. I've already said that. So here's the mantra for all of you. Again, if you want to have a personal mantra, I can help you with that. Go here to astrology.thunderwizard.com and I can give you a mantra based on your Vedic astrology. Okay? But if you don't want to do that or you don't have that, don't worry. I've still got a mantra that will work for everybody. It is simply the Om Namah Shivaya mantra. So you get yourself one of these. Make sure it has 108 beads. So it's a mala, M-A-L-A, and make sure it has 108 beads on it, because there's all kinds of malas with different numbers of beads. And I've got a video. You can go on my channel and search for 40 day. You'll find a video on my channel where I talk about how to use a mala and how to do a mantra. So get that and chant Om Namah Shivaya. If you want, you can do the whole ritual thing. You can do it in front of a fire. You can just chant it all day long. You're walking around your house. Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. Do that. You're around people. Do it in your head. Om Namah Shivaya. To do it all day so that it starts to repeat itself. So that when you're asleep, you're chanting it in your sleep. You wake up and you hear it. Do that between now and this eclipse. I guarantee you will see huge results from that. All right, so that's it. I wanted to just come on and do this video for you. We can do a question and answer. So let's take a look and see what we got here. So Sintana seems to be enjoying what we're talking about. I'm glad. All right, so I don't see any questions here. Anyway, I'm glad, Sintana, that this has been helpful to you and you're relating to everything that we're talking about. I'm very happy to hear all of that. Okay, nothing else? All right, that's it then. So, all right, my friends, thank you. I hope this has been helpful for you. I'm recording this as well, so I'm going to chop this up into smaller videos and put it on the channel. And I hope that's been helpful to everybody. So tonight is Wednesday. We have another live guided interdimensional meditation. Those are also, this is the best time for that. And as it so happens, we have a live guided meditation on the 29th, the night before. So it's perfectly timed because I'm going to be in bed when we actually have the eclipse. It's going to be like 6, 7 in the morning here. But so that'll be perfect timing. You can get yourself all set up and ready for bed, and then yeah, there it is. So I hope to see you tonight at 8:30. We're going to do live guided interdimensional meditation. That's it, my friends. I love you all. You know what to do. You know where to go. michaeldenny.org to connect with. I'm not going to sell anything on this video, but there you go. You want a mantra, astrology.thunderwizard.com. That's it, my friends. I love you all. Please be very good to yourself. I will see you all very soon.